Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome back to Everything Within podcast. I'm your host, Alina Krasnojon. This podcast is all about empowering you to build an extraordinary, fulfilling life and tap into the limitless potential that resides within you. Thank you for tuning in today. What if I told you that the secret to getting everything you want is to stop wanting it so desperately? That the path to true success is learning to let go of your attachment to success itself, your identity, the desperate desire to achieve things. What if I told you that your need to control people, your partner, your family, your children, and your friends is actually pushing away the very connection you crave and makes you miserable? Today we're talking about detachment from it all. From material possessions that promise happiness but deliver emptiness, from business outcomes that keep you on an emotional roller coaster, from romantic relationships where you lose yourself trying to change and control the other person, from family dynamics where you exhaust yourself trying to fix everyone, from your physical appearance as your body ages and changes, from your carefully crafted goals while still working toward them every single day, and from the illusion that you can control anything outside of yourself. This is something I've embraced fully this year, and let me tell you, it's been both the most challenging and the most liberating journey of my life. I learned to detach from my business and its results, to keep showing up no matter what numbers looked like, no matter how many people engaged or didn't engage. I stopped checking metrics obsessively and started focusing on the work itself. But the real test came with my closest relationships. I had to face some uncomfortable truth about myself. I realized I had created perfect images of people in my head, how I wanted them to be, how I thought they should respond, how I believed they should show up. I was projecting all of this onto them and then getting hurt and frustrated when they didn't match my mental picture. Even worse, I discovered that my sense of worth was completely tied to others' people's perception of me, what they said, what they did, how they responded. It all became a reflection of whether I was good enough, lovable enough, worthy enough. I was defining myself through others people's actions, and it was exhausting for everyone. The hardest part was learning to let people be exactly who they are without needing to control them, fix them, or make them be a certain way. My anxious attachment style wanted to monitor every interaction, to manage other people's emotions so I could feel secure and safe. But slowly, painfully, and beautifully, I began to realize that the only thing I can actually control is myself and my emotional responses. I had to detach from my need to control others and focus on controlling the only thing that was actually in my power, my own inner world. Today we're diving deep into the power of detachment, not as giving up or becoming indifferent, but as the ultimate form of inner strength and freedom. Because here is what I've discovered. Detachment isn't about caring less, it's about caring deeply while freeing yourself from the desperate need to control outcomes, control people, control outside circumstances that are completely outside of your control. It's freedom from clinging to specific outcomes in your life. It's freedom from anxiety, from the exhausting need to manage everything and everyone around you. Freedom from defining your worth by external circumstances. Let's begin. Let's define attachment versus detachment. Attachment is clinging, needing specific outcomes, defining your worth by external things. When the outcome isn't exactly the way you want it to be, you suffer, you become anxious, stressed, constantly trading your energy and never feel at peace. You live in a constant state of mental tension, wanting for the next thing to go wrong or hoping for the next thing to go right. Detachment, on the other hand, is caring without clinging, engaging without depending on results. Detachment doesn't mean you're indifferent. It means you will be okay no matter the outcome. It's knowing that you have the inner capacity to handle it all and regulate your inner states and your responses. It's crucial to understand the difference between detachment and indifference. They're not the same thing. You still care, engage with life, show up, do the work, but without a desperate need for a specific outcome. It doesn't mean you don't have goals, you absolutely do. But if you don't achieve everything perfectly, it doesn't break you. You just keep going as if nothing happened, without beating yourself up, without feeling angry or sorry for yourself. You're at peace. You don't trade your energy for anxiety and worry, but preserve it for what actually matters. Buddhism teaches that attachment creates suffering, and I found this to be profoundly true in my own life until I realized that living without expectations from people, without needing certain situations to be a certain way, is far more satisfying and liberating. In Buddhism, there are two main forces that create suffering: craving, wanting things to be different than they are, and aversion, resisting what is actually happening. The Four Noble Truths teach us suffering arises from attachment, and liberation comes from letting go. We suffer more from resisting reality than from reality itself. We suffer from aversion, the resistance when we don't want something to be exactly as it is. We try to change it, control it, fight against reality. It's like being in a river and fighting against the current. You exhaust yourself trying to swim upstream instead of learning to flow with the water. The Buddha said, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. The pain of loss is natural, but the suffering comes from our stories about what that loss means, our resistance to accepting what is. Living attached means constant anxiety, fear of loss, never feeling enough. You're living in fear, feeling trapped, desperately needing to control things you cannot actually control, but maintaining the illusion that you can. It's simply exhausting to live this way. That's why you feel drained all the time. You're pouring your life force energy into trying to manipulate outcomes instead of channeling it into presence, creativity, and genuine connection. You become a prisoner of your own expectations. So how do attachment form? Childhood conditioning. If I achieve X, I will be loved, worthy, safe. If your childhood wasn't safe, uncertain, if your caregivers were unpredictable, the only thing you crave is certainty. You cling to it desperately. I know I did this for a very long time. Safety was the only thing I had been searching for. Growing up in post-Soviet country with corruption, poverty, and an alcoholic father, I felt that I needed to achieve things, to be the perfect child, to earn love and acceptance. Your nervous system learns that love is conditional, that you must perform to be worthy, that your value depends on what you do rather than who you are. Societal programming. In our society, the only measure of worth seems to be external validation. You're considered successful when you achieve external things. Buy that house, choose that prestigious career, climb the corporate ladder, earn a certain amount of money, have the perfect family, buy the most expensive things you can afford. Meanwhile, freedom, inner peace, living from your deepest authentic desires aren't valued. That invisible emotional labor of women, raising children, caring for family, creating a nurturing home isn't considered productive. Rest isn't productive. Being isn't productive. Only doing, achieving, accumulating things. The ego survival mechanism. Often your possessions, your career, your relationships become who you are, your entire identity. It's still survival, even if it's more luxurious and doesn't look like survival from 10,000 years ago. Your ego creates a sense of self through external markers because it believes this will keep you safe, accepted, worthy of love. But this false self is fragile. It constantly needs feeding, validation, protection. It's exhausting to maintain an identity built on things outside your control, trauma responses. Attachment becomes a way to feel secure in an uncertain world. When you're experienced unpredictability, abandonment, or emotional neglect, you develop hypervigilance around relationships and outcomes. You become attached not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of being left, fear of not being enough, fear of facing life alone. The system tells you to buy more, consume more, upgrade your lifestyle endlessly. The more you earn, the more you need. It becomes a hamster wheel that is incredibly difficult to step off. But constantly searching for the next experience, buying things, consuming mindlessly often leaves us feeling empty inside, especially when we do it unconsciously on autopilot because everybody else is doing it, because it's what we're expected to do. We never stop and actually question, what do I really want? What brings me genuine joy? What does a luxurious life look like for me? Often it has nothing to do with possessions and achievements. Social media makes you constantly consume and compare, making you feel miserable and distracting you from what actually matters to you, especially if you use it mindlessly. It creates artificial scarcity. Everyone else seems to have more, be more, do more. It hijacks your attention and makes you feel like your actual life isn't enough. The dopamine hits from likes and comments becomes another form of attachment, another external source of validation you start to depend on. You're always needing the next milestone to feel worthy, and paradoxically, feeling empty and unfulfilled when you do achieve it. Your mind will always crave the next thing, the next partner when it gets hard with your current one, more money, a more expensive house. The more you achieve, the more you want. If you don't stop and learn to appreciate what you have, learn to live with less, to be present. We want quick fixes for everything: health, appearance, building a business, building the perfect relationship, changing overnight. But it never works this way. All meaningful changes takes time, effort, and your willingness to be uncomfortable. Happiness is constantly promised through acquisition. Buy this and you will feel confident. Buy that and you will be attractive. Purchase this experience and you will be fulfilled. But it's a lie that keeps you trapped in the cycle of wanting, buying, briefly feeling satisfied, then wanting more. True fulfillment can be purchased. It has to be cultivated from within every single day. Now, let's talk about several forms of detachment you can cultivate in your own life. Material detachment. Your possessions don't define you. They don't define your worthiness. And the more you detach from them, the more liberated you start to feel. And here is the beautiful paradox. More material possessions start to flow toward you because you don't need them so desperately. When you're not cleaning, when you're not operating from scarcity energy that repels abundance, the freedom of minimalism versus the trap of materialism. This doesn't mean having nothing except a mattress in your apartment. It means learning to live with less clutter, sometimes even less than your perceived needs. More isn't always better. When you have fewer possessions, you have less to maintain, less to worry about, less to define you. Your energy goes toward experiences, relationships, and growth instead of managing stuff. Money as a tool, not a master. Money is energy, and the more freely you give it away, the more freely it comes back to you. I know I'm still learning to let go of my own scarcity mentality around money. Being raised in poverty, I have hard times giving it away, even buying things for myself sometimes that I actually need. I want to accumulate money because I'm afraid they will never be enough, but I'm learning to do it every day. To give to charity when I have resistance, invest in myself without guilt, learning not to be defined by the amount of money I make. But when you use money as a tool, you spend it on things that align with your values, education, experiences that grow you, supporting causes you believe in, taking care of your health. You save it not from fear, but from wisdom. You invest it in opportunities that create value for others. You give it away knowing that generosity creates more flow, not less. Business success without emotional dependency on outcomes. This is a huge one. We cling so much to outcomes, results, financial goals when we start a business. But the more we cling, the more desperate we become, making decisions from fear, neediness, unworthiness. And this energy gets reflected back to us. We can't create freely, speak our truth without fear, or show up authentically when we're attached to specific results. You can still have and set goals, but you don't need to depend on outcomes so desperately. This is where having a side hustle, savings, or a partner who can support you becomes important. It gives you the freedom to take risks and be authentic, because your survival doesn't depend on it. When you're not desperate for every client or every sale, you can serve from overflow instead of scarcity. Relational detachment. Loving without possessing. Love has nothing to do with possessiveness or needing your partner to be a certain way. When you love someone fully, you don't have the need to change them. You let them be exactly who they are while still knowing yourself, your boundaries, and respecting them. Possessiveness isn't love, it's fear dressed up as care. Allowing your partner to be themselves without trying to change them isn't easy. We all have a perfect image of our partner in our head, and sometimes we struggle to communicate our needs properly. But accepting your partner exactly as they are without trying to fix them is so powerful and holds so much freedom. It means loving the person who exists, not the person you think they could become. Family dynamics. Releasing the need to control or fix family members. I struggled with this big time. I did a lot of healing, letting go of old trauma and wounds, and finally realized I can't and don't need to change my parents to love them. They did their best with what they had, with the emotional and financial resources that were available at the time. They couldn't have done it any other way. It felt so liberating to just be there for them, loving them, without having the urge to change them or make them understand something they're not ready to understand. The difference between caring and codependency. Caring means you want the best for someone while respecting their autonomy to make their own decisions and choices, even if those choices cause them or you pain. Codependency means your emotional well-being depends on their choices and outcomes. Caring says, I love you and I'm here if you need me. Codependency says, I need you to be okay so I can be okay. One is love, the other is using someone else to regulate your own emotions. Identity detachment. Releasing attachment to your self-image and how others perceive you. When you're evolving and growing, you have no choice but to constantly keep letting go of your old identity, old patterns, old ways of being. It can be painful, but it also means that your identity isn't set in stone. You can change it literally with every new thought and action. And the way others perceive you isn't your responsibility. You don't have to please everyone or be convenient for everyone, but just be your authentic self in every interaction. That's where your power and freedom lie. Accepting that your body will age and change. Letting go and detaching from the way your body looks is both liberating and painful. Your body isn't permanent. It will wrinkle, change, eventually fail. It's not easy to accept this, especially when our culture values only youth and beauty, especially in women. We're taught that our worth decreases as our bodies age. But accepting and being at peace with every age stage gives you so much freedom. You stop wasting energy fighting the inevitable and start accepting what your body can do right now, how it serves you, how it's carried you through life, confronting mortality, death as the ultimate teacher of detachment. A daily practice of reflecting on your own death humbles you and reminds you of what's truly important. The Stoics call this memento mori. Remember, you will die. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you could die today. Let this determine your actions and thoughts. When you truly accept that your time here is limited and uncertain, you stop worrying about the small stuff. You prioritize love over being right, presence over productivity, connection over achievement, the impermanence of all things. Everything is temporary. Your current problems, your current joys, your relationships, your body, your life. This isn't depressing, it's liberating. It means that whatever you're going through right now, this too shall pass. It means you can appreciate the good times without clinging to them and endure the difficult times knowing that they won't last forever. Goal detachment. Working toward goals without being enslaved by them. You can have goals and work toward them passionately while holding them lightly. The goal becomes a direction, not a destination you must reach to be worthy or happy. Process versus outcome focus. When you focus on the process, showing up daily, improving your craft, serving others, the outcomes often take care of themselves. But when you focus only on outcomes, you miss the joy and the growth available in the journey. The power of effort without attachment to results. This is from the Bhagavad Gita. Do your duty without attachment to the fruits of your actions. When you give your best effort without needing specific results, you're free to be creative, take risks, and serve authentically. Why detached action is often more effective action. When you're not desperate for specific outcomes, you make better decisions. You're not clouded by fear, neediness, or ego. You can see situations more clearly and respond more skillfully. Control detachment. You think you can control what other people do, how the economy performs, whether your business succeeds, what opportunities come your way. But this is largely an illusion that creates enormous suffering when reality doesn't match your efforts to control it. The only real control you have is over your thoughts, your emotions, and your responses to what happens. This is actually enormous power. It means you can choose peace regardless of circumstances. You can choose love regardless of how others treat you. You can choose growth regardless of what changes arise. Accepting what is while still working toward what could be. This isn't passive resignation. You accept current reality without resistance while simultaneously taking inspired action toward positive change. You work with reality instead of fighting against it. This becomes a daily practice, constantly sorting what's in your control from what's not, and putting your energy only when it can actually make a difference. Internal state reflecting in external circumstances. We often think that life just is the way it is. It is what it is. But life is actually a reflection of your internal world, your triggers, and unhealed parts of yourself. Until you heal, you attract the same wounded type of people. You keep letting people treat you badly because you think you don't deserve more. You don't set boundaries because you fear conflict more than you value your own well-being. You fear lack, so you end up attracting lack, scarcity in money, love, opportunities, respect. Your external world is like a mirror showing you what you believe about yourself. If you believe you're not worthy of love, you will attract people who withhold love or treat you as if you're not worthy. If you believe money is hard to come by, you will create situations where money is always a struggle. If you believe you have to work twice as hard to prove yourself, you will attract situations that require exactly that. The universe is neutral. It's not punishing you or rewarding you. It's simply reflecting your deepest beliefs back to you so you can see them and choose to transform them. There is a huge difference between desperate energy versus abundant energy. These two frequencies. When you're desperate, afraid of loneliness, afraid of never having enough money, never enough clients, you accept the most unaligned clients who drain you. You stay in relationships out of fear, even if you lose yourself in the process. You have low standards for yourself and others, and you suffer. If this keeps happening, it's time to look deeper inside yourself. It's not anybody's fault. It's your invitation to heal. But abundant energy is different. It doesn't mean you have it all figured out or that everything is perfect. It means you move through life with inner peace, freedom, and believe in yourself. You trust that what's meant for you will find you. You know that you can handle whatever comes your way. You set standards and boundaries because you value yourself. You're willing to walk away from what doesn't serve you because you trust that something better is always possible. This energy is magnetic. It draws in opportunities, people, experiences that match your inner abundance. Attachment is exactly what creates scarcity thinking. When you cling to things, possessions, money, unaligned clients, external validation, you're operating from fear that there isn't enough. that what you have might be all you will ever get. We've been programmed to believe that the world is scarce, that opportunities are limited, that if somebody else is thriving, it somehow means there is less for you, or if you give something away, you will have less. But this is a lie that keeps us small and fearful. This energy of grasping and holding tightly actually repels abundance. It's like trying to hold the water in your hands with clenched fists. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. Scarcity mindset makes you hoard instead of share, compete instead of collaborate, settle instead of trust. It makes you small, fearful, and reactive. You make decisions from lack, taking jobs you hate because you're afraid no better ones will come, staying in relationships that don't fulfill you because you're afraid of being alone, not investing in yourself because you're afraid the money won't come back. When you're detached, you radiate a different energy entirely. You're attractive not because you need someone to complete you, but because you're already whole. You're successful not because you're desperately chasing every opportunity, but because you're selective and aligned with what truly serves you. This detached confidence is incredibly magnetic. People want to be around someone who isn't needy, who isn't trying to get something from them, who is genuinely content with themselves. Opportunities flow to people who don't seem desperate for them. Love finds people who aren't desperately searching for it, while letting go often brings what you want. This sounds counterintuitive, but it's one of the life's most reliable patterns. When you stop desperately wanting something, you create space for it to come to you naturally. Your energy shifts from grasping to allowing, from forcing to flowing, from making decisions from desperation and start making them from wisdom. Neediness repels what you want because it signals lack, desperation, and incompleteness. It makes others feel responsible for your emotional state, which is exhausting. But wholeness attracts because it's peaceful to be around, inspiring, and genuine. When you're whole within yourself, you're not looking for others to fix you, complete you, or validate you. You're simply sharing your authentic self. In relationships, the moment you stop desperately searching for the one and start enjoying your own company, love tends to show up. When you stop needing your partner to be different and start accepting them as they are, they often naturally become more of what you hoped for, not because you changed them, but because your acceptance created a safe space for their authentic self to emerge. In career, when you stop desperately chasing every client or opportunity, you start being selective about what aligns with your values. Better opportunities often appear when you stop working from the energy of I have to prove myself and start working from I have valuable gifts to share. People notice and want to work with you. In personal growth, when you stop desperately trying to fix yourself and start accepting yourself as you are, while genuinely working toward growth, transformation happens more naturally and sustainably. The beautiful irony is that the moment you detach, the more you tend to receive everything you've always wanted, and then you realize you don't even need it anyway, that you were already whole without all of it. The things you receive become bonuses to your happiness rather than requirements for it. Detachment is challenging because you're evolutionarily wired for attachment as a survival mechanism. We fear loss and uncertainty. Our ego resists letting go of control, and our culture conditions us to believe that caring means cleaning. But understanding this resistance is the first step to moving through it. Here are some daily detachment practices you can try. Morning practice. Start each day by surrendering the outcome. I will do my best today and trust what unfolds. Set intentions without demands. I intend to serve rather than I must achieve X. Practice gratitude for what you have while releasing the need for more. Throughout the day, notice attachment arising, tightness, anxiety, the need to control. Practice the so what technique. What if this doesn't work out? So what? I will figure it out. Breathe into uncertainty instead of fighting it. Let yourself not know. Evening reflection. Review moments of attachment versus detachment from your day. Those simple everyday attachment to outcomes, people's responses, how things should go. See them clearly and practice letting go of at least one to become more conscious of those patterns. Celebrate small acts of letting go, no matter how minor. Practice death meditation. If I died today, what would really matter? What was I worried about that doesn't actually matter? Regularly give away possessions you're attached to. Notice the resistance and breathe through it. Practice saying, I don't know, and sitting with uncertainty instead of having to have all the answers. Experiment with not having options about everything. Let some things just be without your commentary. Take social media breaks to reduce comparison and external validation addiction. Start small with minor preferences. Maybe you wanted coffee, but they only had tea. Practice being okay with that. Work up to bigger attachments gradually. Be patient with the process and understand that detachment is a lifelong practice, not a destination you arrive at once and stay forever. Imagine waking up every day with inner peace that isn't dependent on external circumstances. Your calm doesn't get shaken by someone else's bad mood, unexpected challenges, or things not going according to plan. You move through life from a place of groundedness that nothing external can disturb. Your creativity and spontaneity explode because you're not constantly calculating outcomes or protecting yourself from potential disappointment. You take risks, try new things, experience yourself authentically because you're not attached to being perfect or having everything work out exactly as planned. Your relationships transform completely. They become based on love rather than need, on genuine connection rather than what someone else can do for you or how they can make you feel about yourself. You stop trying to get love and start giving it freely. You stop trying to change people and start appreciating them exactly as they are. You experience effortless action and flow states regularly because you're not forcing outcomes or swimming against the current of life. Things feel easy because you're working with life rather than against it. You find genuine contentment and joy in ordinary moments because your happiness isn't conditional on achieving the next thing. You develop true resilience in the face of change and loss because you understand that everything is temporary and you're okay with that impermanence. Loss doesn't devastate you because you weren't clinging desperately in the first place. This is what detachment ultimately gives you: freedom from the tyranny of wanting. You're no longer enslaved by your desires, constantly chasing the next thing you think will finally make you happy. You have the freedom to appreciate what is, this moment, this breath, the person in front of you, this experience exactly as it's unfolding. You gain the freedom to act from love rather than fear. Your decisions come from wisdom and compassion rather than desperation and scarcity. You choose what aligns with your deepest values rather than what you think will get approval or avoid rejection. And most importantly, you have the freedom to be yourself without needing approval. You stop performing for others and start living authentically. You stop trying to be who you think others want you to be and start being who you actually are. This is the ultimate liberation. Living as your true self, unburdened by the need for external validation or specific outcomes. Today we've explored how attachment to outcomes, people, possessions, or even your own identity creates suffering and keeps us trapped in a cycle of anxiety and control. But detachment offers us a different way, not caring less, but caring deeply while holding everything lightly. When you detach from needing specific outcomes, you free up enormous energy to actually create and love more authentically. When you stop trying to control others, you discover the only real power you have: mastery over your own inner world. The life you've been desperately trying to create through attachment is actually waiting for you on the other side of letting go. This week, I challenge you to pick one thing you're attached to. Maybe it's obsessively checking your phone, needing a particular outcome at work, or craving someone else's approval, and practice letting go. Just for this week, just one small thing. Notice what happens in your body, your mind, your energy when you release that grip. Notice how much mental space opens up when you're not constantly managing that attachment. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Until the next time, bye!